Welcome to the Agility in Real Life podcast, Take 5 in Real Life. Now your hosts, Mike Studeman, Jeff Lee, and Pat Campbell.
Hello and welcome back to the Take 5 IRL podcast from Agility IRL. I'm Jeff Lee, your host today, and we have a special episode today. I'm joined by Heath McIntyre and Danielle Beck from Capital Services. So welcome, Heath and Danielle, to the podcast.
Thank you,
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, so special thing today, we're going to go through talking about assessments. And we did an assessment here a few months ago with Capital Services. And so we're going to bring Heath and Danielle in to talk about why they wanted that. How did it go? What did they learn from it? And so this will be a little bit longer than our typical podcast, but hopefully everybody finds that valuable. So before we get too deep into it, can you frame up who is Capital Services?
Sure. Capital Services, we are a credit card servicer for several different bank clients, and we service the whole credit card portfolio from upfront marketing and scorecards and stuff all the way to fulfilling the applications and setting up accounts and customer service, back-end collections, the full life of the credit card. So we have all that ourselves. We're not a bank ourselves, so we service other bank clients, and that's what we do here.
We like to say we handle everything cradle to grave.
Yep.
Very good. And Danielle, can you frame up like the organization, the size of the group that you work in as far as, part of this whole Agile community?
Sure. So Capital Services as an organization has about 265 employees. We've got two different locations, one here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and one in Brookings, South Dakota. As far as our technology folks and those working with Agile methodology, I believe there's probably about 65 of us that are in some way, shape, or form impacted directly by Agile.
All right. Yeah. Now, before we get into the assessment that we did with you, I also want to frame up for people what your Agile journey has been like. So Heath, do you mind giving a little bit of a timeline of when you started using Agile, why you did that? And, I guess getting into why bother with this assessment.
Sure. So it started, our Agile transformation started 2 years ago. We were very much a waterfall shop, and we were just looking at basically improving. So a lot of this was to deliver faster from an idea to when we actually implement. And then also that would give us this competitive advantage. So reacting to the business needs more quickly for that competitive advantage. And then also just shifting our focus. So we focus on delivering the most valuable work. Under the waterfall methodology, we tend to make really big projects and would do a lot of work before we deliver anything to the business. So, and when we could probably deliver smaller pieces earlier and more often. So that was kind of what drove us. So 2 years ago, we again then had consultants come in and helped us kick off our different Scrum teams. So we chose the Scrum methodology and we launched several teams using that Scrum methodology and started working that route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And I do want to give a shout out here to Intertech, who you worked with, and a friend of Agility IRL, Stevie Bourne, who was involved with helping you kick that off. Danielle, can you speak a little bit about the early days of Agile, and or I should say the early months? What was that like? Did you see some of those goals succeeding?
Well, absolutely, we did. And hats off to Intertech. Great experience with the training and the support that we received in those first few months. Yes, we saw improvement, but you also tend to see things slow down a little bit as you're learning that new process and attempting to do Agile. That's one of the reasons why we moved into the assessment and we're looking for the assessment, is because we found that we were quite successful doing Agile, but we weren't being Agile across the board. And so that was really okay, here's where we are. How do we assess where we are now? And then how do we improve? So again, that's why we found and came to you guys again for the assessment then to take that next step.
Yeah, so the reason for the assessment there is to try to figure out, hey, what's this gap between doing the agile things, but actually being a more agile organization? Were there any, other reasons or like specific things you were looking to improve through an assessment?
In my shop specifically, one of the things that we saw a lot of challenges with is the cross-team collaboration. And just having a good understanding of what Scrum Team 1 versus Scrum Team 2 were working on, and making sure that we were all working towards the same time frame to deliver that value. And so, lots of different iterations and attempts to fix it ourselves. But that was the main reason why I was really looking for an assessment, is to tell us, how do you think we're doing 2 years in? And then how do we improve upon that?
Okay. All right, Heath, does that match what you were looking at, or were there any other things from your perspective?
There was also the partnering with the business better. In our, even after we went to Agile, there was a lot of prioritization and stuff that happened outside of the Agile process in our Scrum teams, and then things would just get thrown over the wall to them, where we really wanted our teams to work more with the business partners and stuff, and so they could understand why they were doing what they were doing, and also the business partners could understand what the teams are currently working on and stuff too, and really create that visibility and transparency across the whole organization.
Gotcha. All right, very good. Well, I'll talk a little bit about the process of the assessment that we like to use. We speak individually with teams. We also with you did a system level assessment. And so for each team, there was a survey that we gave them, and then we came together to reconcile answers and come up with action items for each team and notes. And why did somebody say that we fully met this criteria and other people say that we didn't meet it at all? To understand that. And then each team, we did that at the system level, so that how our teams working together, get product owners, scrum masters, managers thinking about that. And so that was our process, getting people to look at those various levels. We had a different set of questions for the teams versus that system level. And let me ask you, were there any things that came out of that were different than what you expected?
From a company standpoint across the board, I think people may have been surprised at how we actually ended up making it a Agile enterprise. We throw that term around a lot, and really pushing this out across the whole company. And it's just not our technology side doing this anymore, because that's how we started, with just in the technology and trying to be more agile. And really now the focus is across the organization, including executives and stuff, and are involved in this transformation. So that was probably the biggest thing that came out of that assessment moving forward.
Yeah, Danielle, anything to add to that?
I would just second that. It really has been a transformation across the organization, especially as we've introduced this next level and gone more of a value stream focus. And so we're shaking it up for every department, but seeing really, really good things.
Yeah, so going into it, were you expecting it to be more focused at the team level and how teams can improve, or was this something that you expected to see?
I don't know that we expected quite the level of transformation we're doing at the company level, at an enterprise level. I think we were still expecting to kind of be at the team level, but somehow work our business partners more in with them. Well, we've just kind of upended that by using these value streams and stuff, and really making the business part of that Agile process and stuff, not just spectators.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that happened organically through the assessment. Intertech and you guys did a really great job of listening to us, and not just listening to the specific areas that we were looking at, but listening to us as an organization. And we were talking about, hey, we have problems with prioritizing and making sure that we're working one number one instead of 10 number ones. And the work is changing every month. We're moving number 1 to number 5 and moving something in. And you really listened to us and came back with feedback that helped us realize it is bigger than just that team level. It's the whole organization that needs to shift in order for this transformation to work.
Yeah. It's a big realization.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, one thing that I thought was fantastic when we were finishing up the assessment and doing the readout to your senior leadership, Your CEO was in the room and asked the question, how can I help? Which was, amazing, right? That's exactly what you want from that level of leadership. And it seemed like it really opened up what you could do moving forward. So that was a number of months ago. If I remember right, maybe 3 or 4 months. I think that was in the spring. What has changed since?
The biggest thing is the implementation of the value streams. We literally just kicked that off at the beginning of September here and stuff. So we're kind of like in our first sprint with the value streams and stuff, and aligning, and then having these monthly meetings where our Scrum teams meet, with these committees, these business partners, and really prioritizing. And so instead of one big prioritization across the company, we now have each value stream prioritizing and making sure they're meeting the company objectives and stuff with each team. So that's probably the biggest thing we've done since the assessment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
we implemented. Oh, sorry, Jeff. We implemented a few things, just kind of our new way of work with a cross-team sprint planning to make sure that everyone is on the same page and we're collaborating appropriately. And all of that was, it just fell into place. It happened to fix, it feels like it fixed several problems. The first planning meeting that we had. And then, the big shake-up has really been this value stream focus. And it just seems like it's a new path forward, and really exciting to be able to embrace this new way of work across the board and across the organization.
Yeah. And so for people who aren't familiar with the term value streams, how would you define that in terms of, what it means to you at Capital Services?
So I'll say like our business value stream is the servicing of that credit card from cradle to grave that we talked about at the beginning. And then within that, we have these development value streams. So there is the portfolio value stream. So they're responsible for how the portfolio performs and stuff. So scorecards and different strategies and stuff. That's really what they do, credit line increase strategies, things like that, they're responsible for. So that's one value stream. Another value stream that we created was our servicing value stream. So that's actually servicing the credit cards and stuff. So we have a team and team supporting that too. And then we created a third value stream. We called it technology team. That's our technology stream. And really what they are is I'll say like an enabling team for the other ones. So a lot of our architecture and stuff will go through that and enable the other teams to build what they need to build on top of our systems. So.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of alignment throughout the organization to support, the business very intentionally. And I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, that, prior to that, you didn't have that clear line of sight for your business people. It sounds like a lot of work to get those business people directly involved and caring how you deliver to them.
That is correct.
Excellent. Excellent. That's great to hear. Believe it or not, this is not a rehearsed script. We're just talking through this actually for really the first time. And so that's rewarding for me to hear how that's gone for you as well. I had an idea on some of these things, but, first time with specifics. So, finally, I've, thinking of assessments as a whole, was this a one and done for you, or are you planning to do it again in the future?
We are doing future assessments. In fact, we'll be doing another assessment next week at the teams level. So all 5 of our Agile teams will be going through an assessment next week, and we are continuing to use the Path to Agility tool for that. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The Path to Agility tool is what we use at Agility IRL to perform these kind of assessments. One of the things I love about it, it gives us the ability to either come back with our client in the future and run an assessment, but it also allows us to hand over the keys to our clients, and they own their own agility improvements and all that in the future, just like Capital Services is doing. All right. Any parting thoughts, anything we haven't talked about yet that you guys wanted to share?
I think one thing just to mention about the assessment, anyone that's gone through a transformation or migration to a new methodology, it's really important to understand where you are and where you're wanting to go, right? So the assessment is really just a relation to knowledge is power. And so if I know where I am and I know where I want to be, there's a straight path to that area. And so it was comforting and really gave us kind of an understanding of, okay, this is where we're at. And it was nice that you said, hey, you're probably where most people are after 2 years. So that's always kind of a little pat on the back and can take a deep breath. But then now here's how we get to that next level and where we need to focus on. So just a little map that we needed to follow, which was really, really helpful.
Right.
And I'll add that Agility RL did a really good job of, you talk about handing the keys over, about, bringing us up to speed, like using the Path to Agility tool and what those things meant, and really, teaching us so we could continue on ourselves too, and really enable us to be able to continue that transformation after you left. So that's been really good too.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Yeah, one other thing I'll mention that's kind of been under the surface in a lot of things we're talking about is when we do these assessments, we really focus on the business outcomes that our clients are looking to achieve. And you can hear through the conversation how clearly that business and technology alignment happened. Part of that was focusing on what are the most important business outcomes to capital services and aligning the teams, the practices, all of that to support those outcomes. They're going to be different for every company. And so it's really important to establish that as part of what you're trying to do and your vision for your Agile journey, because fundamentally it's about the business, about being successful as a business. All right. Well, thank you, Heath and Danielle, for joining. This has been fun to reconnect here and talk about your journey through the assessment process. So thanks for joining us here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Take5IRL podcast. If you like it, please go ahead and share it with someone, as well as like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, leave us a comment or a suggestion for a future episode. Again, thanks for listening, and we look forward to you joining us next time on the Take5IRL podcast.